It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Thursday, October 24th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, don't follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have sermons in the sky, it's QNA Thursday, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And I hope you guys are having an amazing and awesome week. Yes, it is already Thursday. We're getting towards the end of the week, towards the weekend, which is tomorrow. I'm super excited about this too. We do have the it's the Myung Songs Myung Songs what do you call it? 대회 competition. Right, so and I'm excited about this. And then on Sunday, of course, we have the closing ceremonies for the Rock and Tree Festival. Okay, so also, guys, don't forget we have a Q&A Thursday every single week, not just today. So get those questions ready. Send it to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, leave a like and comment to build our community. So I am super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is Ultimately, It Is God's Will. All right, so as you've heard slowly that I do need to phase out this SoundCloud because SoundCloud I'm no longer using anyways. So I think some of you caught on when I said do not follow us on SoundCloud kind of thing. And all we have is YouTube right now. And of course, other people, they were talking before about Apple or maybe Spotify might be a little bit easier for me too. And I'm going to be just honest with you guys I've just been lazy on it. I really have. I'm sorry about it, guys. I have been lazy on that, right? Also, I'm going to get rid of SoundCloud. I haven't posted anything for over a year, I think. And also Patreon, guys. Patreon, that's been going on since the very, very beginning. Super thankful and grateful for everyone and their support. And basically, there is lecture training and some lectures on there too, and some word studies about the Sunday messages and such. I am actually thinking about doing the Sunday message word studies again because I do feel it is such an important part of lecturing. It really, really is. So I think I'm going to get back into those once again. But ultimately, guys, for Patreon, it's an open, remember, this is free. It's on YouTube, so well, it's not really free because you do have to use your internet data, and some people don't have unlimited data. And on top of it, you do have to watch some commercials, which is ugh, right? But of course, you can click out of it in 5 seconds. But it's not like you're paying anything with money. And for those of you guys who are inspired, it's oh, you know what? I'm really benefiting from this. You guys can go ahead and click on that Patreon link in the description. You could support us through that way too. Okay, so let me start off with a joke. Okay, I'm going to start off with a joke. I'm going to tell you, I'm only saying this joke because I'm not sure if it's, I'm not sure what it is, but I heard this joke. I just laughed out loud, right? And it's a joke. So it's there's a black guy, a white guy, and a Chinese guy. Okay, and they're all trapped on a desert island. So they're trying to figure out how to survive. So it's all right, the black guy gets the food, the white man builds a shelter, and the Chinese dude is in charge of the supplies. So somehow the black dude goes out and catches some fish. Okay, the white dude, he starts making the shelter out of trees and branches, stuff like this too. So everything is done. So they're eating and such, and all of a sudden they're thinking to themselves dude, where's a Chinese guy? Right? Where is that Chinese guy? So they start going around the island trying to find where the Chinese guy went. So they're walking around, not knowing what's going to happen. And then out of nowhere, the Chinese guy jumps out of nowhere and says, "Supplies!" Wasn't funny? Oh gosh, I don't know why that made me laugh so much. Because I guess because I'm Asian and I don't relate to it, but I just think it's funny. Yeah, no, guys, supplies, accent stuff. No, okay. I just want to see if that was funny or not, but I guess it might not be enough, right? But I found it to be very funny. And interestingly, I found it to be something that I really needed at that time. And it made me laugh out loud a lot. So I don't know. Maybe it's just I needed to laugh for a little bit too. But I had probably one of the best therapy sessions yesterday. Therapy meaning, not it wasn't therapy. It's basically like, it's that healing time. I went out to lunch with some other members in HQ, and it was awesome. Just talking about our experiences in the past, what we've experienced until this point, and all of us are like, some of us are like new to, most of us were new to headquarters and stuff like that, and we're just sharing. Like the really good, the bad, the funny, like everything, all different types of sharing, right? And it was super amazing time. And I enjoyed it because all the people there were people that, that we kind of like, I guess everyone trusts each other. And I loved it because it wasn't like one of those, like, what do you call it? Like a negative complaining session. It was a rainbow of all sorts of experiences and thoughts. It was moving. It was graceful. It was fun. It was all these things, right? And we all thought to ourselves, like, man, this is really nice because sometimes you just need to get away, right? Just need to get away, be able to have a nice coffee. Went to this really good latte place, but it was really, really nice. And it was just kind of nice that we're all of us, all from different backgrounds, and we all have experiences around the same level kind of thing, right? And I would say probably 30 to 40% of the time was just tons of laughing. And I found that to be super healing. And it's, which brings me to it's kind of a funny point for me too, because we were just talking about all the funny things that when we listen to educations and stuff. And I was listening to this education on the weekend. Was it on the weekend or last weekend? It was one of the two weekends. And it was talking about what should you do when you go through a difficult time. So, like they're saying, like, don't be physical, don't go in, just eat yourself, just eat yourself out of that that difficult time kind of thing. But, talk to God and stuff. But there's one point the lecturer was like going, hey, and don't just go and talk to people. You got to talk to God, right? And I was like, in my head, I was like, man, like that would be so easy for introverts to do. But I was like being honest with myself. I was like, man, I would have a hard time because I'm such an extrovert. I just need to talk to people, right? But then I was thinking about this. I was like, man, it's like super easy for introverts. But then I start to think again. I was like, But then the extroverts have an easier time with evangelism and meeting new people. So then I thought to myself, I was like, I think it's quite fair then because everyone will have the things that they'll struggle with. Right? Everyone needs to put in the max effort for something, for these harder things. So in the end, I was like, I think it's pretty fair. I really think it is quite fair that, even though you're an extrovert, there is an advantage with one of the greatest things you can do for God, which is evangelism, right? It's harder for an introvert just to go out there and meet people and make new friends and stuff like that too, where it's just as hard for like a super extrovert like myself, just to constantly be alone, just being by yourself, right? It's a little bit more difficult. It's just because it's a difference in character, right? So yeah, it was just a really, really good time. And oh man, I heard this amazing story about this one head leader, and it's someone I know too. And I was listening to someone else testify about them. And when I heard this, I was like, that is incredible. So what this head leader would do is that they would basically set aside $500 every month. And they put that money aside to take people out or to give money to those that are running really hard. And I was like, wow, $500 every single month. And I was like so impressed by this, like just to see a leader set that kind of condition. And in my heart, I was like, man, you know how much God is going to bless this person in the future when it comes to all the stuff that he's doing? Because he lives a life like that, he's going to be the one that God's going to give even more because God knows that this guy's going to do just the same thing every single time, everywhere he goes, right? And then, there's other people we hear about like who save money. Right? So I thought to myself, what would you be more impressed by? Someone who saves money or someone who gives money? And I think I would, it depends obviously on the situation, but I would be very impressed by someone who gives money like the person I just talked about, but I wouldn't be impressed by someone who gives their money, but in the end, they end up broke and they're suffering and they don't get anything. You know what I mean? Like they're not wise about it. They're just giving everything away. So this person's obviously like really planning it really well, right? And on the flip side, someone who saves money, of course, I would actually be impressed by someone like a leader who doesn't make much money, but they're able to save money, right? And, I would be impressed if they were able to save money while treating others really well, right? But I would definitely not be impressed if this leader was like sacrificing so and let others and even young people pay for their meals and pay for them just because they wanted to save money. Like that would leave a mark on my heart. Like, ugh, why would you want to do it that way? So I was like, yeah. So I guess everything is different depending on the full situation, the full circumstance. And I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And I hope that, everyone is going to be very different. Everyone's situation circumstance is different too. And I don't think that one condition is greater than the other because each situation is that different and has a different action that's needed, right? So like, I don't know, if I think off the top of my head, like what if your mom was sick and she couldn't pay the medical bills or whatever it is like this, but you end up, in your situation to be saving some money. And while you're saving the money, what happens? You are able to while you're saving money, you do it so that you could pay for your mom's health treatments and stuff like cancer, whatever it is. That I would say, wouldn't you guys be impressed by that? For sure. Even if it was something where you couldn't do as much for for the people inside your church, I still think that would be crazy impressive to be in that type of situation, I'm sure, right? So when I was looking at that, I was like, yeah, that's definitely something that I look at. And I think all of us, because we're all different, because we all have different situations, circumstances, because we're all thinking in different ways, I think that's something that all of us are going to be impressive if we can do things absolutely with our faith in God, do things we're actually sacrificing, or we might be suffering from it too, but if we can do it like that, right, in our current situation, circumstance, I think that's what makes it a lot different, right? So I was thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, that is something that I would look at and say, for sure, I would definitely be like, yeah, that's impressive. And I hope that is something that we realize and recognize is as we do the different conditions that each and every one of us have that specialty for, just know that God is a fair God. God is absolute and fair. And he is a God that will repay everyone back 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. And, at one point I actually was thinking to myself but is that even fair? Like, is that considered fair where you can do, like, we're going to do something small, but yet God pays us back 10, 100, or 1,000 times? Because doesn't that seem unfair that you're doing something, but getting back 10, 100, or 1,000 times more? And you're like, wait a second. Like, if God was really that fair, shouldn't he just be giving us exactly that? Like, oh, I sacrifice $500 a month, so God should be giving me $500 more a month, right? And as I was thinking, like, man, I think that would be fair. But then I started thinking in different terms, like even business terms I was thinking. I was thinking like, well, if you think about this, people who sacrifice, let's just say they sacrifice $500 a month and they put it into like ETFs or mutual funds or something along that line that generally give you about almost 10% a year, right? So let's just say that happened. Well, after 20, 30 years, that's going to be worth like more than 1,000 times of what they put in, kind of thing, right? And if you think about it that way, it's like, oh yeah, even in this world, when you save up or you sacrifice these physical things, even though it's going to be not as big in the present time, it's such a huge thing in the future, and you're getting paid back 10, 100, or 1,000 times, right? And I was like, oh, that makes sense, because that's kind of like the rule of the world. That's how the world works. The world is working in such a way that if you can delay your gratification right now at this moment, in the far future, you're going to receive so much more. And I was like, yeah, just like in the physical realm, for those that do that, it's going to be the exact same thing. Meaning, they're going to be able to, in the spiritual world, just the same thing is whatever you put in, you'll get back 10, 100, 1,000 times. And I was like, yeah, that is fair, right? That really is. And even when you think about, like, say, when people get into accidents, sometimes they get settlements of like $1 million, $5 million, like $10 million, right? Sometimes they'll get these types of settlements. But when they get these types of settlements, it's like, how did they get so much money? Because they also add in suffering, right? They add in not just what is lost. Like if I couldn't work for 2 months because I got hit by a car, you're not just going to get paid for the 2 months of work you didn't do, but during that time of 2 months, you were in the hospital, you were suffering, you're going through this and that. And we need to realize in the same way, right? They're going to get 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 more than what they actually lost, right? And I would say that in the same way, we need to realize that when it comes to righteousness, righteousness is paid back in this way because that is the law that God has installed even in this world, right? You know, I read a story, maybe, was it last year or the beginning of this year? Someone who's imprisoned falsely for like 40 years. And when they finally came out, they lost 40 years of their life, but it was false imprisonment. So what happens to them? They don't just get paid for the 40 years that they were in jail. Or was it 40? Yeah, it was like 40 years in jail. They also, on top of that, get paid for like the time they suffered and the time that they could, they lost that time with their family. Like the government and the police station is going to be paying millions of dollars for that type of travesty, right? So, I think it's something that we don't have to look at as unfair. It's just the way, it's the law that God has installed. And because God has installed that type of law, even in the physical realm, it's not hard for us to really understand it in the spiritual realm too. So think about this, guys. Right now, all the things that you sacrifice, all the things that you could be doing, but you choose not to for the sake of God's history and for God's will, that is going to multiply 10, 100, 1,000 times, right? And I hope it's something that all of us will really recognize and realize, especially for right now, when it comes to us really realizing how much we need to, this time we're living in right now, the greatest thing that we can do, of course, is evangelism, is to save life. But of course, it's twofold, right? Twofold meaning internal and external evangelism, right? Internal is also twofold. Internal evangelism is evangelize yourself, right? Internal evangelism is also, it's the evangelism or taking care of the people inside the church, making sure everyone's doing well, everyone's managed well, everyone's, enjoying their time, everyone's happy and joyful in this history. And then the external, of course, is growing the church, going out, meeting people, and making sure that they that we can bring people more to this history. And I think when we looking at the messages now is kind of like, it's time to get up. Let's start to evangelize. Let's really go out, save the people. I think one of the things I read from the Wednesday message, right? That one of the things from the Wednesday message, I was like, oh, that's so true, is like, hey, the work of righteousness is to evangelize, right? Let's do it internally. Let's do it externally. And let's make sure that we all play the role that we should play, because, this is not a history where we do it by ourselves. But especially with the several weeks of messages, it's always about the righteous dying on behalf of the wicked. It is the righteous doing more. It is the righteous being better. It's the righteous doing these things. And I hope it's something that we can realize and recognize even, all the more that, yeah, this is something we really, really need to do. All right. So yeah, that's something that I thought a lot about. And I'm hoping that is something that all of us will really be able to get our hearts to really become that much more clear about how we should be living. And I hope that we're not going to be those that are going to be focused too much only on what we are doing individually, right? As times and times get more difficult, as tribulations come, this is where people become more inward and less outward. Outward meaning going out to meet people, going out even meeting members, going out to events, going out to pre-dawn or church, going out to evangelize people. Like when things get very, very difficult, people turn into themselves instead of going outward. And what's going to happen in this type of situation is when we come out of this cave, right, like of 2023 in the pandemic, it's going to take some time to adjust. Just like if you've been in a dark cave for so long and then all of a sudden you see the sunlight, your eyes are hurting. It's just way too much for your eyes to really take in. And that's something that we have to recognize and realize that, yeah, this is something that we have to really understand much more clearly, and I hope it's something that we can realize all the more too, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things that I think that we can start thinking about as we are leaving the cave, I guess, right? Leaving the cave of 2024, and also trying to figure out what is the best way that we can run with each other. Right? And I would say one of the best things, one of the things that Sunseam is so absolute about, right? The one thing Sunseam is so absolute about is making sure that everyone is united and harmonious, right? Everyone is really, really running together as much as possible. And I think that's something that we have to kind of understand what that means. Like, what does it mean for us to really be harmonious? And, I think one thing we have to look at is being harmonious is understanding that we all have the same goal and we all have very similar intentions, right? We all, no one is doing anything out of bad intention. Intention is not the issue, right? What is the biggest issue that we're facing? Is not intention, it is, it's more about people sacrificing for each other, right? Meaning, sometimes we're not going to agree, and that's okay. Like even for me, even for me in IMD, do you think we're all like 6 of us are all going to be like, yeah, for sure? No, we don't. We don't agree on everything. But guess what? Even for me, like there's some stuff I totally disagree with. But in the end, I already but that, whichever way it goes, it goes. I'm not happy with it, but I'm fine, right? We can move forward. I'm not going to be trashing the place and stuff like that too. It's something that I look at and I'm just like, you know what? If we can't lose harmony off something we disagree on, right? We can't lose that, that becoming one, that togetherness, where I don't think it's a bad thing to crash into each other. Hey, I don't agree either. Okay, what about this? Why do you think this? Why do you think this? Why do you think this? Great. But at the end of it, what has to happen? At the end of it, it's going to be about, so even though that's the case, right? Even though that's the case, what matters the most? Well, what matters is that we can still move forward together. We're not going to be fighting and going against each other. We're not going to be holding the grudge because you don't agree and I don't agree. Is not going to be the end all of all things. It's going to be more of what? It's going to be all right, I got it. It makes sense. Sure, no problem. And that's it. And we move forward. And We agree to disagree, and it's okay. And I think that's something that we do need to understand when it comes to harmony. Harmony is not 100% in agreement. Harmony isn't everyone is best friends. Why? Impossible. Everyone's not going to be best friends. We're all different characters and stuff. Some people don't match with other people's characters, and that's okay. That's fine, right? The harmony that God sees is, hey, we're different. We're going to have differences, but let's just keep moving forward. Just because you didn't agree with me that last thing, it doesn't mean I'm going to get back at you for the next thing. It's going to be like, yeah, I understand, right? And for me, like, sometimes, like, even for myself, I know that there's some things that both sides won't agree on. I'll just pass. I'm like, hey, let's pass on this. That's me. I'm just like, hey, let's pass on this because let's agree to disagree, right? You are not, in this position, I'm going to be like, yeah, you're definitely not going to convince me on this one. Because I've heard, like, they'll say the exact same thing, the other people said to me, which is not convincing at all. I'm just like, all right, whatever. And I'm like, it's pass. It's fine. I brought up a point, and you disagree with it. That's fine. Let's move forward. I don't want to waste any more time on this. I just don't, right? The worst case is if someone keeps trying to convince me and I just be like, dude, let it go. Just let it, that's what I'm like, just let it go. It's not worth it, right? Because at a certain point, you don't want it to get too emotional where it actually turns into a fight. Like, you don't want that. And that's the one thing that I try my best to avoid. Like, you know what? Let's pass on this. It's just not worth it. It just isn't. And because it's not worth it, I don't want to go any further on this. I'm not going to fight you anymore. I'm not going to fight you on every other issue. It's fine, right? And I think it's something that we do need to understand. True harmony is not best friends. It's not kumbaya. There's going to be fighting. Not fighting, but there's going to be arguments. There's going to be people who disagree, and that's okay. And I think it's fine, right? So that is something that I was thinking about, and I thought it was something that we can all really think about together too, right? And I hope it's something that we can become more and more harmonious, right? I think it's something that we can really, really understand a little bit more differently also. Okay? So yeah, that's kind of some of the things that I was thinking about, and I'm hoping that it's something that can help us to think a lot more deeply also. Okay? So yeah, that's segment number 1. I hope it's something that helps you guys get into a little bit more deeper thought. If you have any more questions, let me know, and we'll get back to you. We'll talk to each other in the comment section. All right? So, today is QNA Thursday. So before we get into it, let's get into the first music break of the day.
2023. We've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many, many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many, many, many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be iller. No, I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hard to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize, I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare. Put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock. I got atomic bombs. Love the Lord your God and all your brothers. Watch the demons fall. Don't be deceived. Know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace. Go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's a real deal, the real thing. Be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for a downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
All right, so let's get into today's QNA Thursday, and we have two questions. I got this from my DMs from the same person, and very, very interesting questions too. One has to do with the Proverbs, and the other one has to do with the Bible question, right? So two things is, I'm very, very happy that people are listening to the Proverbs and they have questions from them, which means they're thinking more deeply about it. And then also the second question is really good too, because it just shows that people are reading the Bible also, especially with the verses that are coming through the messages, right? So let's go into the first question. When we go to Monday's Proverbs, right? Number 30 says, when you do not know, instead of calling upon God, look at someone who is doing well before you and follow their example. This is basic wisdom. The question is, what does the Korean version mean? It seems the opposite. Shouldn't we call upon God when we don't know? This proverb is saying, instead of calling God, look at others, right? So it does kind of look like that, right? So when you say, when you do not know, instead of calling upon God, look at someone who is doing well before you and follow their example. This is basic wisdom, right? And, for me, I did do a double check on the Korean, and the translation is absolutely correct. Now, does this mean that look to people instead of God? And the answer is no. It looks like a very, very specific situation and circumstance. Okay, so it says when you do not. So it's about not knowing something. Okay, and it looks like something a little bit more, something that you can learn from other people, because this is saying that you should look at other people, right? So this is basic wisdom. So what is this saying? Like, what are the things that we can learn from other people that would actually be better or faster than asking God, right? For instance, let me ask you a question. What if you're trying to figure out, you're in Wonmyeongdong and then you're like developing the trees. Now you're trying to figure to yourself as, how do I prune this tree? Do you get on your knees and pray? Or do you ask the Wonmyeongdong workers who are right in front of you, who have been there working together with Sunsim, which one's easier? Which one's better in that situation? And the answer is, obviously, it's far better to just talk to the people of who are developing Wonmyeongdong. They'll be the ones that will come to you and they'll say, oh yeah, when I was this, I had this story with Sunsim. Sunsim told me to do it like this. Sunsim told me to do it like this. And when you listen, you'll be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, right? And you learn it on the spot. But when you pray, what's going to happen? You're not going to learn, right? What about... or you're not going to learn as quickly, right? It's basic wisdom. What if it's trying to learn how to fix a car engine, right? Far better to learn from a mechanic than just sit there and pray, right? What if you want to learn about piano? What if you want to learn about sports? Just go get a coach. Go get someone who's played basketball. Go get someone like this, and that's more of basic wisdom that we can learn from, right? So this is something where we look at and it's like, oh, this is something definitely where it's a very specific situation, and this specific situation is something that we're able to learn from people, and not it's much better than learning through these people than learning just straight directly from God, right? So I would say that is the situation that we're looking at. Now, we could look at a similar situation like, hey, I want to be a mechanic, right? And I want to learn how to fix engines. But there is no one in front of me, no one that I know, no mechanic even around this area that can teach me about this. Gotta pray. God, this is something that I, with my responsibility, cannot fulfill 100%. Right? Because you could even look on YouTube and try to figure out how to fix different things on your car. But imagine you don't have anything available. Pray, right? And those are times where, remember, it's not false in saying this, because God even tells us, ask God to do the things that you cannot do yourself. When you can actually do it, right? Why would God even, right? Why would God even help you if that's something that's your responsibility? There is our responsibility, and then there's God's responsibility. There are situations we gotta pray, and there are situations we don't pray. Like it's not don't pray. It's situations we gotta go and take action, right? When you want to evangelize, what, you're just gonna pray and say, God, please send me someone, or do you need to actually go out and meet people, right? So there is the human responsibility and then God's responsibility. And we just need to know in the basic wisdom that there are some things that we got to do as our thing, and there's things that God does as his thing, and we have to know the difference between the two, right? And I think that's something that would be very, very beneficial. And I think it's a great proverb and a great question to ask is, how would we know the difference between the two? But of course, throughout the messages that Sunseed gives us, he does teach us the difference. He does tell us that there are human responsibility and God's responsibility. So, if you need to learn how to prune trees, ask the woman workers. If you need to learn how to cook, ask the cooks, ask the mechanics, ask the doctors, ask the lawyers, and that's going to be a way that you'll really, really understand it much better too. All right? Now, second question, I felt really bad because I laughed at this person, not because I was laughing at the person, but I was laughing at the imagery in my head. So the second question comes from Ezekiel chapter 4, right? So this is where the message comes in about the prophet that's going to, what do you call it? The prophet that, Ezekiel, that lies on his right side for 390 days, lies on his left side for 390 days, lies on his right side for 40 days, right? And that's the condition he needs to set for Israel and for Judah. Now, the question is, does that mean Ezekiel never got up once to use the bathroom or eat? Is it literal? And I couldn't help but laugh because it's like, can you imagine that he'd have to poop and stuff on his side? Like, that would be kind of crazy, wouldn't it be? But of course, that would be incredible question. Incredible condition, right? So I just started laughing. They're like, oh, I don't think that's funny. I was like, well, sorry. I was like, in my head, I was just picturing how Ezekiel would actually do those things, right? And I think there's several things that we need to look at. Like, number one is, if the detail is not in the Bible, it's very hard for us to say, no, it is this. Right? Wouldn't you say? Like, we don't know what the actual full condition is, and that's why it's a little bit hard for any of us to really ask that. And we're probably not going to, most of us probably, we're not going to know until we get to heaven and we ask God or we ask Ezekiel, like, oh, what actually happened here, right? I think that would be a fair thing to say, or, maybe something would reveal it somewhere in the future. However, I do think there is a small revealing that we have to realize also, right? So you guys all know the story when Sunseed had to fast. Well, he had to fast because he couldn't eat, right? He wasn't fasting because he wanted to. He's fasting because he doesn't have any food for 70 days, right? We all know that story. And what Sunseed says is he fasted not because he chose to. He fasted because there's literally no food. There's a huge difference between the two, which means that during those 70 days, he was scrounging around for food, looking for berries, like sucking on bark or like, trying to chew on bark or arrowroot leaves or whatever it was. He wasn't doing it on purpose. It was something that he was doing because there was no food, which means he was scrounging around looking for things. Remember, even in one of the stories, he said that he would find like little pieces of salt, and the salt would feel like an entire meal. So he would actually have some pieces, like some grains of salt during that time too, right? So we see that even when we think about Sunsim's 70-day prayer condition, he does give us insight into it. It's like, yeah, I'm not doing it because I'm choosing to. It's because I had no choice. And when we realize what this means, what happens? We're like, oh, that's what's going on, which means that he was scrounging around looking for berries, taking off pieces of bark off the trees to chew on. He was doing all these other different types of things, which is much different than what we think of a fast, as in, you sit there praying, reading the Bible, and then you go to the refrigerator, get a cup of water, maybe put some ice in it and chew on some ice. And it's a very comfortable way that we do it because we're in our houses, in our bedrooms, doing this and doing that. So much easier when we think about this, but we have to realize that even if he's scrounging around looking for food because he's so hungry, the situation is so harsh and so bad that the suffering is that much harder. And I think that's something that we do need to recognize and realize is, yeah, it's that hard, right? And it's something that it kind of gives us an eye-opening into the types of fasts we do compared to the types of fasts that the man of mission do, right? They're doing it not because it's not like they have to. Like, no, not like they have a choice of like, yeah, I can go off this fast anytime I want. It's more of there's no other choice. This is all I got, right? And even in the times in the future when Sunsim can be more comfortable, when he chooses to go on a 21-day fast, he chooses to go on a 40-day fast, he chooses to go on these types of fastings, right? It's still something that he is so compelled and wanting to do so badly. Why? Because he's paying for sins. He's paying to save others. He's paying the price so that other people can live. And that's something he will absolutely do. And to him, there is no other choice, right? So I think it's something that we have to understand really well, right? And it's something that we can really push ourselves to know. And I think it's something that a lot of times we can look into other stories. We can see other stories in the Bible that give us hints. We can look at Sunsim's stories, what he went through. And these will all be different ways that will able to open our eyes to understand what the men of missions, the central figures all went through, right? They're kind of in a similar way. So is it a literal staying on his side? To be honest, I don't know. I really don't. Yeah. And Sunsim's never talked about it. But all we know, it was a great condition. Even if, let's just say that he got to sleep at night, even if he gets to go to the bathroom or whatever it is, that's going to be like how much of the day? Like maybe 10 hours? Which means you still have 14 hours lying on your side. And for 390 days straight, on your left side, and then do the same thing on your right side for 40 days. That's crazy. Was it 390? Yeah, 390. Altogether, that's 430 days just lying on your side for like 14 to 18 hours a day. For me, that's still hell. That really is, right? So it's something that we can understand and learn a lot better, but we have to understand that it was a massive time of suffering. And I would say for you and I, the biggest difference between us and, like, say, Sunsim when he was fasting for 70 days, one thing that Sunsim said was, you know that at the end of your fast, there is food to eat. So there's hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. But when he was starving for 70 days, he didn't know when the next meal would come. He had no idea when that next meal would come. That's more suffering because you don't know when it ends. For us, it's kind of, we're playing a game. How long can I go? Oh, can I do it for like this? Oh, can I do it like that? And then you try to figure out, oh, okay, but then you know at the end of the 7 days, at the end of the 14 or the 20 days or 21 days, whatever it is, you know that it's going to end and you're going to have food. And you're going to do it in a healthy way too. You have options for food too. And I think that's something that we do have to recognize also, how much more suffering it is for these things to happen. All right? So yeah, that is today's Q&A Thursday. I hope it helps you guys out and answers some questions for you guys too. If you have any more questions, please let me know. Would love to hear from what you guys are thinking also too. And let's send your questions also. All right? So there it is, guys. That is today's Q&A Thursday. Hope you guys really enjoyed those 2 questions. Like I said, send more. Love to hear your questions also. And like today, that second question, I don't know the answer to it, but we do have some hints and we do have some things we can reference towards that will help us to understand it better too. Okay, so yeah, that is the end of today's Q&A Thursday segment number 2. Before we get into Sermons in the Sky, let's get into the final music break of the day.
Y'all ready for this?
Shown you love me with things you've given. You know I love you. I'm already singing about the stories that we have together. It's here forever. It will only get better from now on. Everything that you've given, I'm so grateful. Let me show you my love, 'cause I'm so thankful. Let us dance on the streets. Let us rock to the beat. Show me how you feel about me. Watch me move my feet. You're always on my mind. I can feel it in my heart. Everything's alright, 'cause you're not so far. Please take my hand and love me through a dance. I wanna show you my love, so give me a chance. We have stories of joy and pain, but that's okay, 'cause that's like dancing in the wind. And I will say it again, I'ma dance with you.
I'ma dance with you. I'ma dance with you. We can move to the beat, our love so complete. I'ma dance with you. I'ma dance with you. I'ma dance with you. We can groove to the beat, our love so complete.
You've shown your loving, you gave me a chance. And with the mistakes I've made, I've never fallen away from you. Though times are rough, it'll be okay, 'cause I am never, ever, ever gonna leave you astray. Ay, thunderstorms are a little scary, but with you, I won't feel weary. Even on cloudy days when skies are gray, my heart's a cave, the sun will shine through the rain today. Let us dance on the streets. Let us rock to the beat. Show me how you feel about me. Watch me move my feet. You're always on my mind. I can feel it in my heart. Everything's alright, 'cause you're not so far. Please take my hand and love me through a dance. I wanna show you my love, so give me a chance. We have stories of joy and pain, but that's okay, 'cause that's like dancing in the wind. And I will say it again, I'ma dance with you.
I'ma dance with you. I'ma dance with you. We can move to the beat, our love so complete. I'ma dance with you. I'ma dance with you. I'ma dance with you. We can groove to the beat, our love so complete. I'ma dance with you.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today, which is Sermons in the Sky. And, I haven't, like I said, I was going to ask Pastor David to get back into this. He can't do it for this week. Actually, he can't even do it because I haven't really asked him yet. It's been quite crazy for me. And I wanted to just share this one thing, this proverb that came from Monday. And I really, it kind of shows the situation we're in. but it also shows the mentality of the Lord. And it's actually Proverb 31. Okay? So what it says is, when I plopped down, because the ground of the road I was on sank, I looked and saw water spring up and surge. When the sky crumbled, I looked and saw the will and blessings of God pour down. And it just these two things reminds me of what is happening since 2023. So here he is on a path, on a road that he's been on. Then all of a sudden, the ground begins to sink, right? Which means the road is basically getting destroyed, and he has no choice but to just plop down, sit down of where he's at. But when he looked at the end of it, he saw a water spring up and surge, which is a great sign. And I look at that as like, in 2023, that's kind of what happened, didn't it? Like the biggest issue that he was dealing with was not the trial. It was with like KJS and all the people that were slandering and saying these terrible things and coming against him. Like this was like the earth was like, the earth shattered. All the people that he trusted and believed in, it looked like the world was going to end. But then he looked and he saw water spring up and surge, which is a great sign. And what's he seeing at the end of 2023? He sees the faithful remaining. He sees the people that will stick with him until the very end. He sees that, and he's hopeful and he's thankful, and he sees the hope of that spring surging up. It's like, no, this is not the end. And then it says, when the sky crumbled, I looked and saw the will and blessings of God pour down. So when we look at the sky crumbling, we think to ourselves like, oh my goodness, like the world is ending. But when he takes takes a closer look, and he sees the blessings of God, the will of God coming down, pouring down with the sky that's falling and crumbling, right? And that's kind of like the trials that Sunseam is going through. It's just the more and more we hear about it, the more and more we begin to understand what's happening in the trial. The more we sit there and it's like the sky is crumbling. We can't understand how it could be so unjust, unfair. What the heck is going on? But when we look more closely, we see the will and blessings of God pour down. One thing that I think we should be super grateful and thankful for is the one sign that we know that God has not given up on us, that God loves us so deeply. It's the pouring out of the word. It is constant. It is coming towards us all the time. And the last I even heard of how important the words are, even right now, when Sunseam he gets to meet his lawyers every single day, he's using that time not to talk to the lawyers, not to look at these reports here and there, but it's to write the word, right? Because that place where he meets the lawyers, he gets to sit down in a comfortable chair with a table and he can write comfortably. There is no noise from the TV or from the people around him, from the bathroom. It is quiet and he can write to his heart's content. Why? That's the most important thing right now is we've got to focus on the word. The word is God's love. The word is what God is pouring out to us. Whether it's through the Proverbs for the Rock and Tree Festival, whether it's for all these other things that we're looking at, these are the things. These are the signs that God is giving to us. And we have to recognize and we have to realize how much God is doing at this time. So I really hope and I really pray that all of us too, it does look like the ground is sinking beneath us, but there is a spring that will surge up. Yeah, it looks like when you look up, it's like the ground is sinking and the sky is falling, which means that everything around us looks like it's crumbling. But what God is saying is, no. You will see the will of God happen, and you'll see the blessings of God pour down onto each and every one of us. You just got to wait and see, right? It looks like the world is, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to Providence? If it was going to crumble, it would have been done by now. Why? There's 10 years in 2008. There was in 1999. There was like all the broadcasts against us. If it was really going to crumble, it would have already crumbled by now. Remember, because it's the will of God, no matter how hard it gets, God will help us to overcome, and God will help us to get through it. And the one major sign is the words of God, and we need to focus on these words more than anything else, right? So I hope it's something that we can really open our hearts and our minds towards, and I hope it's something that we can really get ourselves to realize again once more deeply, okay? So that is a thing that I wanted to just kind of bring up to you guys. Make sure that we understand that there is still a ton of hope. There's a lot of hope remaining. And we need to be those that stick closely to God, knowing that it's not over. It's not over. We're just waiting for the blessings to fall down. And until that time, we remain loyal, we remain true, and we remain deeply in love with the Holy Trinity and with the one that God has sent. Okay? So, yeah, that's what I just wanted to tell you guys about today, and hope it's something that can encourage you for the rest of this week before the weekend comes. All right? So there it is, guys. That is today's Sermons in the Sky. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Have an amazing and awesome Thursday, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive,